Hello and welcome to today's episode of Rich, Simple Human. I'm Lindsey Frances, legacy and wealth psychologist and clinical sophrologist, and my work is all around consciousness, most importantly for leadership, legacy and human flourishing. Today we're talking about Princess Catherine and Meghan Markle. They're exciting topics, aren't they? Well, they're both women with wealth and they behave in two very different ways. Of course, everything I say today, I will caveat with the fact that it is what we see in the media. It is probably not reality, but we are being fed a message of two sets of behaviour that are totally different. And I wonder why. I thought we'd unpack that so we might get an insight into how we behave as women with wealth and in fact with men with wealth and how that impacts on our human flourishing. I am very excited to talk about the focus on my own work. I guide people through human flourishing in consciousness with 6 pillars. We do physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational, and financial. And when we talk about money, we begin to understand some of our behavior and it helps us balance out our approach to life. If we ignore what we think and feel about money, we end up in this very strange, striving place. And I can tell you that not many people wake up in the morning and think, I know the solution to my life is go out and make more money. They wake up in the morning and think, I don't feel that great. I don't feel happy. I feel like I'm struggling. I wonder why that is. And rather than doing the deep inner work and the self-consciousness work of self-awareness, people just go out and go to work, make more money and hope it might make them feel better. This is what I see in my work. Are you one of those people? If I just had a bit more, if I just bought X, Y, and Z, if I was able to go here, there, and everywhere on holiday, I might feel a little bit better. I'm afraid it's not always true. But I am going to talk today about focusing on women with wealth and what we see by looking at Princess Catherine and Meghan Markle. I'm going to answer some questions, as I always do in solo shows, and I've gone out and fielded this to my own cohort on LinkedIn, and I've asked a few friends before I prepared for today. And today, I'm fresh off the back of another Women with Wealth workshop, which has been very exciting. We talked a lot about money mindset, women as passive or active investors, and why the great wealth transfer is so important, and also the generosity generation that is coming. We're seeing a big shift in what's going on financially in the world at the moment, and we're also seeing a huge amount of money transferring because of death, divorce, and inheritance, and many of that is coming towards women. In fact, the great wealth transfer has been heralded as the 4th wave of feminism. Will you be part of it? Well, if you're a woman with wealth, you will be. And that's also exciting in terms of role modelling to future generations, role modelling to your own children, who, of course, are then becoming very entitled, of course, not through choice, but they will be far more affluent than you were. Their behaviour and motivation will be very different. What can you do about that? They're the conversations I love to have in the work that I do. So if you're thinking about any of those things, please come and talk to me, as well as leadership, legacy, and stewardship. So the first question I've got here is, you ran a workshop this week on women with wealth. What did you actually notice about how women approach finance and investment? Gosh, what I noticed is there's not an awful lot of conversation around this. And there's a very strange assumption that this is about financial education for women. I can tell you right now that women have got plenty of financial education. In fact, they are financially educated. Many have been in higher education, have been working in the workplace. Who knew women at work? And we are now experiencing a level of equality. But what we're not seeing is a conversation around why women tend to invest less than men. They save and they spend, but they don't become active investors. Why is that? Well, I'm going to suggest that part of it is about role models. Women were only holding bank accounts in the UK from 1975, I believe. So we haven't seen women role modelling investment behaviour. We didn't see women as great philanthropists generally. We didn't see women, like our mothers, being great investors. They weren't out in the workplace working as much with money to spend. And they weren't leading the way on investments because it was originally a male-dominated field. Now we must change that. We must start thinking about women as investors. So let's refer back to Princess Catherine and Meghan Markle. What's going on there? Well, Princess Catherine, of course, is not generating wealth externally that we can see. She is stewarding the wealth that she has acquired. And she is also out in the marketplace stewarding her behaviour. She's serving in the role that she has got. Meghan Markle, of course, is a wealth creator. She is creating wealth with various businesses. She's registered many companies and she's out there creating wealth. But why is she doing that? Is it because she needs the money or is it a mindset? What is she doing? And is that different? Well, of course it is. Can you see the difference there between wealth creation and financial stewardship? Two very different models of behavior. What are you doing? Are you a wealth creator or are you a wealth steward? And if you are a wealth creator, could you do more stewardship? In fact, do you need to be creating wealth, or have your investments and your success already afforded you a situation where you could be a steward? Are you able to step more into the generosity generation by funding or donating? Is philanthropy something that you're interested in? Are you perhaps interested in investing rather than creating more wealth? Or in fact, do you have wealth to invest, but you've just decided to save it in a savings account? Or perhaps you've put it in a long-term asset like extra property or your pension, which is not actively invested. How interested are you in these things? If you're interested, please come and talk to me. We are working on a whole series of events for women with various globally renowned practitioners over the next year to really help accelerate some of the investment that women are making and the way they think about money. Are they a spender, saver, borrower, active investor, or passive investor? And in fact, that was the diagnostic that we used in the workshop this week. So if you're interested in that also, please let me know. This is a fascinating, fascinating topic. So let's go back to Meghan and Catherine. What are they? I would like to say that Meghan is probably a wealth creator and she's thinking about making money and perhaps less actively stewarding. Whereas I think we can safely say that Catherine is talking about stewarding. What is the difference between the mindset? Here, looking at these two ladies, you could say that it comes from deep roots because both grew up outside of the monarchy, financially slightly different situations. And I think we can safely say that probably on paper, Princess Catherine's family were more affluent financially than Meghan Markle's. Is this about what's happened to us? And that codes our behavior. Did we grow up with less, so we want to make more? Did we grow up with more, so therefore we just don't think about making more? Or did we really feel like we've got something to prove? What's your motivation behind wealth creation or stewardship? A stewardship mindset versus a wealth creation mindset. I also want to ask here, there's a question that somebody's posed when I said I was going to talk about this. Is Meghan's continued commercial drive actually necessary? Or could she flip in that position to a stewardship model? What would that take? It's a totally hypothetical discussion, of course. Is her commercial drive necessary? I would like to suggest it's not. That with stewardship and investment, she could actually not be doing the wealth creation commercially that she is undertaking. But what that would take, of course, is an admission of a change in who she really is. How valuable are we as women in the workplace? And if we're not in the workplace, how do we feel about women who are stewarding wealth or taking a role as an investor? I don't think we've talked about this enough as women. I think we should be out helping pay the bills. And actually, there's a whole other range of things we could be being called to do, certainly in the areas of affluence and the great wealth transfer that would make an enormous difference. Women tend to think with a we, not me mindset. They think about the collective. They always have done. You're coded that way. This is evolutionary behavior. You were coded to be working on the community in a cave whilst the men are out hunting. Totally, totally different mindset. So what does that really mean? And how could that change for you personally when I ask you that question? Here's another question I wrote earlier, which says, you ask women, that's me, whether they're operating from scarcity or abundance, and how does a woman's background, privilege or not shape what she defaults to? This is what I just referred to in that question. I think it's really about what's your money mindset. Are you thinking about abundance or are you thinking about scarcity? And could you be thinking more abundantly? Or do you actually not know? Do you not have an idea of your assets and where your financial finish line is? And that's my next question. What is a financial finish line, and how does a woman know whether her money will last as long as she does? We're talking here about death. Have you got enough money until you die? Yes, great. In that case, what are you doing with it? Because if you do know you've got enough money to last until you die, how much do you need to leave behind? And of course, with the changing situation we've got with tax, especially across Europe, we don't really know how that will work in terms of inheritance and legacy. So, do you have enough money to last until you die? If you don't know the answer to that question, you don't know where your financial finish line is. If you can work out what your financial finish line is, and any wealth advisor or investor will help you do that, and you can do that calculation online as well. If you continued with your current spend, where's your financial finish line? Do you have enough money already for that? And then the question is, what are you going to do with it? It's a really, really interesting one, isn't it? Because if you do have an awareness of your financial finish line and you're close to or you've already met it, then what are you doing? Still generating wealth? Or could you steward or invest it in a different way, but still with the same results, but possibly a whole different reward? Next question. Are most women working to fund their lifestyle, their purpose, or just working by default? And how do we tell the difference in ourselves? Oof, this is a difficult question. I almost didn't ask this. Let me ask you. Are you working to fund your lifestyle? Are you working because it gives you purpose? Or are you just working and you haven't really thought about it? And then how do we tell the difference? This is where self-awareness coaching and consciousness work comes into the fore, because you're looking to work from insight and wisdom, not just information and intelligence. We've all got loads of information. AI is making that incredibly equitable. And we've all got loads and loads of data. But what's your motivation? What are your insights and your wisdom into the behavior that you've got? So how are you behaving is the diagnostic piece. And then how do you want to behave or why are you behaving in that way is the consciousness piece. A really interesting question to ask yourself. I'm just funding my lifestyle. Does that mean you haven't got to your financial finish line and you don't have enough? Or are you just spending to work? In which case, are you enjoying working to spend or could you stop spending? These hours of conversations. Isn't that exciting? Next question. I always say women pay more attention to what they're spending than what they're saving, and then they save without investing. Why do we not see ourselves as active in the financial markets? I've answered this a little bit earlier on today because we are simply not accessing any role modeling because it's too early. There is a new wave coming here. As I've said about the fourth wave of feminism being related to the great wealth transfer, money coming to women, more money than has ever been held by women globally before. This is a very, very interesting question. We pay a lot of attention to what we're spending because we are stewards normally of the household budget. Normally, I am generalizing here, but you will be aware of what you spent on food, activities, bills, and living costs. You're probably not thinking as much about what you're investing and saving. Why not? Because it's not a day-to-day problem, but long-term you do need to think about both. And there's a balance here. It's really, really important that we do see ourselves as active in the financial markets, especially when interest rates on what we've invested as savings are so low. Being an active investor not only helps us really give, especially if you're involved in angel investment or founder funding, but it also helps us really think more about how we make our money work harder. Money's an energy. The harder we work it, the more it moves, or the more we move it, the more energy it has. Again, this is a conversation probably for another time, but it's really, really interesting to think about money as an energy, to use it, to move it, and then for it to be able to multiply. So just putting it under the mattress is not helping anybody. Oof, next question. Can a woman be rich in the financial pillar, but poor in the emotional or spiritual ones? And how do you spot that imbalance before it costs you? I think we all know about the miserly old woman who was very wealthy and then gave everything away to the cat's home. She may have been very, very well off, but was she happy? How strong were her relational and financial pillars? Was she connected to a higher power? Did she understand the will of creation on her life? Was she creative, like the creator? And was she in relationship with herself and others? This also brings me on to negative self-talk. You need to be in right relationship with yourself to be in right relationship with others. Don't believe me? Come on a sophrology journey with me and you will see how your negative self-talk and the wrong relationship with yourself really impacts the relationships that you have with everybody. The way you talk to yourself is ultimately the way you talk to everybody. Is that terrifying? So be kind to yourself. Tell yourself you're doing a great job and that you're accessing your motivation to be more involved in your financial pillar. And that's going to have a huge impact on your emotional and spiritual ones as well. Spot the imbalance, do the work. Come and speak to me about a diagnostic because it's so important that we get the foundations of human flourishing right. Final question. I say this a lot. You can't take it with you. So what are you doing with your wealth? Well, people say, I just want to leave it behind for the next generation. How's that going to work? If you listened to last week's podcast, I think I was talking about entitled children, maybe a couple of weeks before. I just want to leave it for future generations. Do you? Are you sure? What do you want to do with it? What are the safeguards around that? This is a legacy piece that we talk about. I want to leave a legacy. Just money? What are you expecting to happen to that? And if you're leaving it to your children, well, they'll be a very, very old age by the time you die, hopefully. So what are you leaving it for? What's it there for? Could it go into trust? Could it fund something else? Can it multiply? Can you do something actively with it? So many people don't want to have this conversation because it triggers them to think about death. Well, yes, it's all coming. But the better we prepare for it, the better it's going to be. So you can't take it with us. What should women with wealth actually be doing with it? And where does stewardship, legacy, and the new generosity movement come in? Personal questions. Are you stewarding your wealth or just squirreling it away? Are you trying to save as much to leave it to your children? Are you building a legacy that will impact your children and generations and generations and generations? And how do you feel about the new generosity movement? We're seeing people really asking questions about philanthropy and giving. We're seeing people talking about investing in building, in education, in healthcare, in actually providing access to those less fortunate than ourselves. And we are in a time of grotesque inequality, I'm sorry to say. You'll see it everywhere. Go outside of your front door and look at the number of people with so much less. You'll also be able to look online and look at the women with so much more. We started this conversation about Princess Catherine and Meghan, of course. And the point here is that there are very, very large gaps between rich and poor globally. So let's talk about how we can steward, how we can build legacy, and what do you really want to do? What are you actually passionate about? What are you really interested in? Where would you like to invest or give or donate or start some sort of philanthropic movement? Can you answer those questions? This is self-awareness and consciousness work. It is the bread and butter of what I do. So I think that's enough digging into this topic for today. It's a very, very interesting one, but can you see the difference in the behaviour of looking at these two individuals through the lens of the media, of course? And what do you think of your own behaviour when you compare the two? I'd love to know. Please get in touch. Always make sure you go to the website, richsimplehuman.com, and sign up for the assets. I will send out my diagnostic tools as I do periodically, so you can use those to diagnose what kind of person you are. Where are you in those 6 pillars of human flourishing? Where are your energies being spent, and are you off kilter? Please let me know. I love to chat. You'll always find me on LinkedIn, Lindsey Frances, and of course through any of the other media channels I appear on. Until next time, stay rich, stay simple, and stay human. Please think about your own money mindset. Are you a spender, saver, investor, borrower, active, or passive? I'd love to know. And please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. Please send this to anybody who might be interested, because that is how the show grows. And until next time, take care.